to Hi everyone, welcome to the New Moon's reading for Chevalier's books, which is out in Los Angeles in the Larchmont Village. I've done a couple of readings there. It's a lovely indie bookstore, so we're so glad that they are helping us promote New Moons, which is a book that just came out, edited by Kazim Ali and featuring 65 North American Muslim writers, which is very exciting. My name is Tanzila Ahmed. I'm a activist and writer based in Los Angeles, and I wanted to have an event like this in Los Angeles, which is why we're doing this with Chevalier. And then I'm going to throw it to Kazim, who is the editor of the book.
Hi, everybody. It's so exciting to be here. First of all, to celebrate the publication of this important, I think critically important anthology. Also to be conceptually in the space of LA, which is of course one of the great Muslim cities in the world. And also to be with these amazing people. Sham-E-Ali reminded me the other day that we actually met. Bushra and I had been friends for a long time, since New York City days when I was in New York City and around the turn of the millennium. But Sham-E-Ali reminds me that we too met around the same time, although we didn't see each other as much after that. So I didn't remember until you reminded me, but we met at a reading for an old journal called Salt. And it was at the NYU Asian American Center. And that reading, it was actually Zahra Syed, who's also in the anthology, who was with us in a reading the other day, who organized that event itself. So it's just been kind of incredible. And then Taz is a new friend who I met. I think I met you at Thinking Its Presence conference at University of Arizona in person.
We met before then, actually. We met when you did the USC show.
Oh my God, the USC show.
Massive. Yeah.
The less said, the better. We'll spill the tea later in the discussion section. But it's just been like, this anthology has been a form of community building. And that's the really exciting part. The book is not the finish or the conclusion of anything. It's actually, the book is the door that we're all walking through and going on all these different journeys together. And there's been a whole host of New Moon's activities that have been happening around the release of the book, involving different of the contributors in different, configurations and coordinations, and they're continuing. So I hope if you're out there listening to this, we're in the Zoom age right now, but there's a plus of that too, which is, we can come to you from all over the world. So if you're listening and you are a writer yourself, or a teacher, or a curator of any kind, or have access to a community organization, and you want to put together a reading from contributors of this anthology, just reach out to Red Hand Press, the publisher, in particular, the publicist Monica Fernandez, and we can work with you and put something together. These amazing writers are just, this anthology is a range of writers, from people who've been working for years, have been publishing, who have books, from the, some of them are very well known. Some of them, are still working on building their reputations as writers, and others of them are brand new, and some of them even have never published before. And at least one person in the anthology had never even written before, and was inspired by the notion of the anthology to write something and send it in. And which was included in the book. So we're really, really trying to give you a picture of the full range of Muslim writing happening in North America today, from, practicing Muslims, non-practicing, secular Muslims, cultural Muslims, converts, ex-Muslims. I mean, we all came up through this tradition. We all have very different relationship to the sacred text of the tradition and the tradition itself, but it's the one we were born into, and it's the one that we've been part of, generationally and in our families. And it's meaningful to us to change the context, to center our own context. And the last thing I want to point out, say very quickly before we get to hearing the work of these amazing writers, is that Muslims have been a part of this weird colonialist project that we call the United States of America. Muslims have been a part of it from the very beginning historically. We were here in colonial times. We built the roads and buildings. Let me put scare quotes around it. Muslims were on the ships of the first explorers that came to the quote unquote New World. They were in the Spanish sailors, and they were the enslaved Africans who were brought here as enslaved labor. Most of them were practicing Muslims. And you see that transition of Islam from Africa into the particular kind of Christianity that came to be practiced among early Black Americans. It's a Christianity informed by African Muslim spiritual traditions. So we were always here. We were here in the Chinese laborers who built the railroads. Muslims were always in America, and in the colonial, among the settlers and colonizers, we were here, and our literature was here, and our writing was here, even if it wasn't written down, and even if it wasn't known as such. And so that's where the title of the anthology comes from. The new moon is in the sky. You just don't know where it is because light has not yet shone upon it. And so it's our hope to bring this range of Muslim voices to a new readership. Thanks, Taz, so much for organizing this event, and to Chevalier Books for hosting us, and to the incredible writers, Taz herself, Bushra Rehman, and Sham-E-Ali Nayeem, and then we're soon to be joined by Ramy El-Etreby, so hopefully he'll be on with us soon. But I'm going to turn it over to you. I think our order is Taz is going to go first. And Taz, you're going to do the intros too, is that right?
Yes, I'm going to do intros. I'm also, there's someone playing a video game upstairs, I guess. It's kind of loud. So hopefully you don't hear the thuds that are coming through my walls right now.
Even though you're going to do the intros, I'll do the you intro at very least. I admire Taz so much. She's a political activist, a storyteller, a poet, and an artist. She's based in Los Angeles, and she creates at the intersections of counter narratives and culture shifting as a South Asian American Muslim second-gen woman. She's turned out over 500,000 Asian American voters. I love that about you. And she's recorded a hashtag Good Muslim, Bad Muslim podcast at the White House, and makes Muslim V-Day, hashtag Muslim V-Day cards annually, which I love. You have to check those out. And her essays, in addition to her work in New Moons, her work has been included in the anthologies Pretty Bitches, Shades of Prejudice, Good Girls Marry Doctors, Love Inshallah, and numerous online publications.
Thank you for that intro. That was great. I'm going to read a piece from my essay called Muslima Fight Club. It's been really fun to read this out loud. I'm wondering if I should, we've been doing these readings this week, but I kind of feel like I want to read the ending, even though I know that's not what you're supposed to do, but I kind of want to read the end chunk. Okay. A secret sisterhood of the Muslimas had been formed. When we crossed paths in public places like at parties or protests, we didn't acknowledge how we were secretly meeting each other weekly. Other people could sense the bond that had been created between us, but no one knew why. How could they? A Muslima girl gang learning to knife fight was beyond their comprehension. Muslimas were supposed to be meek, objects, submissive, but we didn't need them to know otherwise. This was our little secret. I grabbed the fighter writer, Kay, by her tattooed shoulders and tripped her behind her knee. She was solid muscle. When she fell back, we both collapsed into a pile of giggles. The exercise was to push each other, then to catch each other, but we couldn't stop laughing. We took a breath, stood up to try again, but as Kay reached for my waist, I cringed into another fit of giggles. She pushed me down, but I pulled her down and we couldn't stop giggling. We turned into tangled limbs on the floor mat in a laughing fit. That's good. Laugh it all out now so that you're better prepared if you get into a situation. You'll know your instincts, B responded. He was always so serious, but I saw him crack a smile at the giggles. It was infectious. It was part of his learning as well. In teaching a posse of Muslimas to guard ourselves, B learned he had to let down his own guard. He started smiling more, was less driven by fear, and even laughed at our dumb jokes. He was always serious, but by summertime, we giggled all the same. It crept on slowly. Then one morning, when we slashed at the sky, I noticed a thin strand of air glimmered behind it. I blinked, and just as quickly it faded away. I thought I had been dreaming. I practiced figure eights in my living room with the plastic blade I had bought online. The more my fist circled, the more it seemed the blade was slicing magic into the sky. With each whoosh, a glittering silver aura started growing around me. I stopped and blinked, and then it would be gone instantaneously. I thought for sure I was seeing things. The next fight club, as we Muslimas practiced stabbing the blades through the sky, I saw a glitter spiral out of each blade, and a glimmering smoke encased us all. I saw glitter spiral out of each slice would mute the sound of the world, making it feel like no one else existed outside of us. We all saw the glittering silver aura around us, but none of us said anything about it, worried we'd break the spell. We had manifested something incredible. The swing of our blades crafted prisms and glitter. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was Allah's protection. Maybe it was a guardian angel. Maybe this is what prayer looked like. Whatever it was, we had found within us the power to be invincible. We didn't speak of what we had seen that day. Who would have believed us anyways? We descended on the airport to disrupt travel and to protest against the vicious policy the regime had just enacted. A powerful executive order that stifled the civil rights of brown people, preventing the free travel of people at borders and airports. Across the nation, airports were being shut down as the rebels mobbed the streets and prevented flights from going out. I showed up with a protest sign in my hand and a switchblade tucked in my boot. I walked up slowly and noted the counter-protest supremacists across the street, a mob of skinheads with white shirts and white men holding flags. No weapons were drawn, but I knew these men weren't there to play. I marched back and forth on the sidewalk with the other rebel protesters, screaming chants at the top of my lungs. Out of the side of my eyes, I spotted the rest of the Muslimas. We made eye contact with each other and gave each other a knowing nod. We positioned ourselves spaced out on the outskirts of the protest, creating a circle that could only be seen by our own. A knife flew through the sky. The blade came down, pointed at the rebels, and then another one and another one. It was raining blades. The rebel insurgents was under attack by the supremacists. I looked up to the sky and saw a hand reach up and grab a knife out of the sky as it dropped, and it dropped on the ground. I saw Kay on the outskirts of the crowd giggling as she reached into the air, grabbing two knives at once. Hands kept grabbing the knives, one after another after another. The rebel chants became louder. The glimmering aura created a dome over the protest laughters, and laughter erupted over the crowd. Muslimas made eye contact across the crowd. Our giggles could hardly be stifled. Love would protect us all. Thank you, everyone, for that. I believe next we have Bushra. And Bushra actually emailed her bio. So give me 1 second to pull
You can
it.
read the one from the book. That's okay.
Okay.
That's easier. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bushra is the author of the poetry collection, Mariana's Beauty Salon in Corona, a dark comedy about being Desi American. She co-edited the anthology Colonize This, Young Women of Color on Today's Feminism, one of Ms. Magazine's 100 best nonfiction books of all time. Bushra's next novel, Roses in the Mouth of a Lion, is forthcoming from Flatiron Books. She is a creator of the community-based writing workshop, Two Truths and a Lie, writing memoir and autobiographical fiction. Please welcome Bushra.
Hey everyone. And hey, I just saw my sister joined. Sorry, shouting you out, Sadia. Wow, it's good to be here. And Kazim, when you were saying that, it's true. All of us have overlapped in different ways. And, I've been super isolated during the pandemic and I've barely done anything, like even on Zoom. And this anthology is the first thing that's kind of bringing me out again to just do readings and do these Zooms. So Taz, thank you for organizing. Kazim, thank you for making this anthology. And Sham-E, I love you, you know that. And Ramy, I'm excited about hearing your piece again tonight, or maybe we'll hear a different part like with Taz. So I've been keeping a running list, and some of you may have heard this, but some of you may have not, of things I've learned during the pandemic. And I'm gonna keep adding to this list as I go along, and maybe you could think about things that you've learned during the pandemic. And then I'm just gonna read 3 of the poems I have in the anthology and a short excerpt from the new novel that you just mentioned. So I've learned that in the pandemic, eventually your eyebrows will stop growing if you don't do anything about them. I've learned that I should not release a country music song called I Was About to Leave You, but then they declared a global pandemic for many reasons. I've learned that you can make yourself look younger on Zoom. Actually, Sadia taught me that. And I'm as interested in Zoom makeup as I'm interested in real makeup, which is not at all. I've learned I could lose the people I love overnight, and that there is another side to the coin of life and death. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I believe more than ever that it's there. Not a heaven or a hell, but a light. I've learned that if you fake prayer enough, it can start to work. And yeah, no, I'm learning that I'm loving to do these readings again. So, one of the things, there's a lot of people who transitioned out of this world in the last year and a half. And recently in this new moon / solar eclipse, there was this idea that it should be a time of reflection of the last year and a half. So I have been reflecting a lot. And, my father as well is transitioning. And one of the poems in the book is actually about him. It's about let me pull it up. It's about a masjid that he helped create in Corona, Queens. And, we found out that there have been, so many masjids, anything can become a masjid, and any place you pray can become a masjid. But this was, it's often noted in different books on Muslim communities as one of the first masjids to be built by Sunni Muslims with a minar and a dome. Like, so it was actually built to be a masjid, not a building that was turned, into a masjid. There's a lot of amazing masjids like that, where they kind of put up like a cardboard cutout of a minar and a dome, and it's a masjid. If you walk around Brooklyn and Queens, you see those. But this masjid it's called Masjid al-Falah, and I'll read this poem about it. The minar and dome of our masjid took longer to grow than trees. Our fathers bought the land, then tilled it. Before that, it was a parking lot for our neighbors, the Jehovah's Witness. They sold it when the door-to-door wasn't bringing in enough donations. Our fathers sowed the seeds then, Qurans and Janamazes. And from all my years, from when I was 4 to 16, the walls went up, and the dome grew the same pace my breast did. The minar too grew to reach the heights of the queen sky, push it past the telephone lines, let itself poke up, respectful still of the Episcopalian church steeple next to it, the flat brick surface of the kingdom of the Jehovah's Witness. It was fine real estate for religion on National Street, a church, a kingdom, and a masjid, crammed next to each other, wall to wall and skin to skin. And if you crossed the street, there was a Catholic store selling crucifixes and paintings of women and men in hell burning. The sinners looked like all of us, but I always thought that all of us in our agony looked like Jesus. So that's one of the poems. Thank you for putting that in the book, Kazim. The other 2 poems are both about my mother, because I was obsessed with my mother. I think one of the questions that was asked recently in one of the readings we did was, what makes you write? And I think as a child, my mother was such a larger than life figure. I mean, she still is. And I was just studying her all the time, and her sorrows and her rages, and only later could kind of come to understand what all that was about. And these two poems, the first is called Rapunzel's Mother, or a Pakistani Woman Newly Arrived in America. And I found a picture, lately we've been looking at a lot of family photos, and I know like, I kind of had this feeling like this is the last time I'll look at them and not feel sad because my father's still here. So I'm like looking through a lot of family photos, and I found the photo that actually inspired this, which was my mother pregnant with me in a supermarket in Queens, or Brooklyn actually, a supermarket in Brooklyn. And she grew up with a lot of food scarcity, and there's just this like giant smile on her face, and she's just surrounded by like, the produce. And so this poem is inspired by that moment. And with a cabbage, a box of eggs so clean, she could easily forget the source of her existence, my mother filled her silver cart and moved in line to make her purchase. The cashier turned a sharp glance at the small brown woman with the pierced nose and covered head. She didn't fit into this, an American supermarket. And what, asked the cashier, are you willing to pay for this? She held the head of lettuce in the air. It reflected off her rhinestone glasses and the hairspray in her hair. But this, said my mother, is America. I thought there was no barter here. Said the cashier. There's give and take all over the world. What made you different here? She shook her head in her plastic hair. But I have money. My mother tried to act like she didn't care. Her English broke all over her and fell apart in the air. But the cashier cackled, no, 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 my dear. What I want is hair. She jabbed a nail, silver paint, and a crooked at my young mother's stomach, which I had just begun to share. That's the price you'll have to pay, my dear, for this fresh lettuce. Each egg that erupts into a new-blown head will be the property of this year's supermarket, country, and nation. And don't even think of running, because we've got the goods on you. Along with every other immigrant, we've got your passport, your foreign passport right here. She made to reach into her too tight jeans, and my mother, she ran out of there. The shopping girl openly laughed behind her, and the lines and lines of customers just stood there with their stupid grins. My mother ran, the door opened by itself. My mother ran, but she still found herself in a foreign land, far away from home. And it's called Rapunzel's Mother because I probably should have said this in the beginning, but one of the reasons Rapunzel is actually there in the tower is that her father, there was hunger scarcity in their home, and when he stole some food from the witch's garden, he had to give up his firstborn child. And I think my parents, especially the way that like I turned out, and maybe other siblings who were on this call turned out, they were different than what they imagined, and there was a lot of, where everything was cool now and as cool as it could be. But, I think that there was a lot of pain and a lot of disappointment. And this last poem about my mom is, for me to understand, like, I understood more like how much she missed Pakistan, how much she missed the language and her friends and her family. And one of the ways she would recreate that is by constantly playing these like Bollywood movies. And not that that was her reality back in Pakistan, but it was the closest thing she could find. And then she would like make these cassettes of the songs from the movies. And I found one of those cassettes, a few years ago, many years ago, and I wrote this poem, Ami's Cassettes. The other day, I found my mother's cassettes from the 80s. They were full of love songs from Indian movies. Ami used to tape them from the TV while she cleaned. And I thought back to the orange carpets, the sofas with their plastic, the way everything was dusted and perfect. I tried to fill the memory with her music, to come up with something peaceful, something splendid. But the tapes, they just didn't play that way. You see, they caught all the background noise, the sound of babies crying, children fighting, fire engines going, and the sound of a child being hit. The children wouldn't stop making noise until my mother's own voice would break. Then there would be nothing but the sound of her crying and the sound of music in a language my mother was dying to hear. And I thought back to the orange carpets, the way I would press my face against them and against the plastic sofas until the perspiration would make it stick, and listen to the sound of her crying and all the love songs of longing. They promised everything missing in our house with its orange carpets, everything missing in the plastic, everything she ever recorded. And so thank you. Those 3 poems are in the anthology, and I have a few more minutes of my 10. So I'm going to read something from the new book, just a short piece. And so the new book is more, it's like sad, but it's a lot of comedy. And like a lot of us, I had these like all these like Muslim girlfriends, and we would just be like ridiculous together all the time. And so this is just like a short clip of like one of the many moments in our lives, like from Ramzan, which We're nowhere near Ramzan, but I hope that people can find it, relate to the humor in this. Ramzan. And the three main characters are, well, you'll see. Eliza, Taslima, and I were like wet noodles laid out on the bed, so hungry we could barely move our limbs. I was so thirsty I was trying to drink my own spit. It was late afternoon, only the first week of Ramzan, and the clarity hadn't set in. Unlike our parents who went about the day doing everything they needed to do with cheerfulness, we were not yet buffered from hunger and thirst by the joys of Ramzan. We were woken up at dawn as if part of some secret society. Like ghosts haunting the kitchen, our mothers would already be up making pratas, smoke hanging over their heads and question mark clouds. The sound of the stove fan disturbing the stillness of the pre-dawn hours. We'd come down groggy and our mothers say, hurry, hurry, eat. Sehri is almost over. With bleary eyes, we'd look out the windows, but it would still be dark with no hint of light creeping over the horizon. I was at the Slimas because we were going to be having an iftari party. My mother had sent me over to help prepare, but the kitchen was small and 4 people were too many to fit. So Taslima's mother shooed us out, sending us upstairs to study. I had a giant book of integrated algebra in front of me, but my brain just couldn't work. The numbers danced in front of me and my head hurt when I thought of all the work I had to do. I wasn't doing well at Stuyvesant. It was a secret I'd been keeping to myself. I just wanted to sleep, close my eyes. I wouldn't mind fasting if all I had to do was read Namaz and Quran. Maybe if we were back in Pakistan, it would be like this, but the pace of the city and the heartlessness of my teachers at Stuyvesant didn't let up. They didn't care if it was Ramzan. I still had to do homework and take tests and quizzes and be present and awake in class. I'd learned early getting sympathy was impossible. It was generally thought by our teachers that being Muslim was our fault and our odd, torturous traditions were not their problem. The Slima's voice came to me from far away. What if I brushed my teeth and I swallowed a little bit of water? Would that break my rosa? No one answered, but she continued. What if I'm showering and I lean my head back and I accidentally swallow a bit of water? Would that break my rosa? Eliza's head was under a pillow. She wasn't happy her spring break coincided Ramzan. She'd wanted some of that home cooking. She'd been trying to read, but soon decided her head was more comfortable under a pillow. How many hours until Rosa ends? I looked over at the clock radio. During Ramzan, we didn't listen to music or watch TV. Without those worldly distractions, we were stripped down to our essence. That was the point. 2 hours, I replied, and Eliza groaned. You know what I really missed, the Slima continued, as if Eliza hadn't said a word. The way when water comes out of the tap, it fizzes, then you wait for the clouds to pass, and then you drink it. No one said anything for a while. How long now until Rosa ends? Eliza asked. 1 hour and 57 minutes. She pulled the pillow off her head and looked out the window, glaring at the sun, trying to make it even faster. How can you even study? I'll just stop there. So the new book, I get to like kind of relive my religious teenage years and childhood, and it's been really fun. It's been something I've been doing during the pandemic, and it's almost done, and it'll be out next year, which is very far away. Who knows if I'll even be here, but still, hopefully I will. And thank you so much for tonight. Thanks everyone for being here.
Sure, that was lovely. I'm so glad we got to hear a sneak peek of your new book.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
First time reading it too. First time reading from the new book.
So it's I mean, Ramadan is something that I know Kazim's written about, and Sham is in the writing group too. We have a poetry day for Ramadan, so it's a special time, you know, to be writing about. So that's very tender. Our next reader is Sham-E-Ali Nayeem, who is the author of City of Pearl. Raised both in the UK and the US, she is a Hyderabadi poet, interdisciplinary artist, and a recovering social justice lawyer. A graduate of Oberlin College, her poetry has appeared in anthologies including Shattering the Stereotype, Muslim Women Speak Out, Living Islam Out Loud, American Muslim Women Speak Out, Shout Out, Women of Color Respond to Violence. Sham-E-Ali is a recipient of the 2016 Loft Literary Center Spoken Word Immersion Fellowship. Welcome, Sham.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be in your company. So great to hear your poetry, Taz. And Bushra, same. Like, I just love your writing so much. And Kazim, and Ramy, I just love being here together. And I love you all so much. And I love your writing so much. My heart is like bursting. I can't even speak right now from it. But I'm gonna just get into the poems. This Something struck me, Bushra, as you were doing your introduction, just of how many dear ones we've lost just in such a short span of time. And, you know, just lost another friend of mine just 2 days ago. And how to make sense. I really appreciated just what you shared. I'm gonna be thinking of your family in this moment that you're in with your father. This is called Partition Story. It's a poem from City of Pearls, but also in this beautiful anthology. Kazim, thank you so much for including these pieces in this important collection. Partition Story 1. My father left this world, and with him, some of his story. I have small bits, but not the whole. This is the story where we have returned to Hyderabad together, back to the graves of my grandparents, back to the things that are no longer there. Maybe he would tell me how much has changed. Maybe he would tell me what was here once, the path that he walked to school, the places he loved the most. This was the story that I was waiting for. 2. I cling to glimpses of things shared quickly over kitchen tables. Somber sits and silver bowls like constellations as he mentions long walks by the cattails, photographs of reflections in the water, places he worked, his love of learning, a determination to save lives. But I never got the full story that would sit there on the edge of his lips like a small cloud. Maybe he left that story on the Deccan Plateau. Maybe he wasn't looking back. Or maybe I never asked. 3. In a frame is a picture of a small boy, not smiling, post-partition India. He's standing straight with a heavy bag of books across his young shoulder like a shield. He's holding in a story, rain within clouds. He kept that story somewhere tucked in suitcases and train windows, buses, car rides, planes, over oceans, over continents. Kept it. 4. This is the story that you will lose if you do not ask. Oh no, lost my page. Sorry, give me 1 second. So the next poem I'm going to read, that's also in the anthology and also from City of Pearls, is titled Remember the Night. And I kind of wrote this piece when I guess it's just really like, you know, as Kazim was saying, Muslims have always been here, and with Muslims always being here, so has Islamophobia. And Islamophobia has always been here, not post 9/11, pre 9/11, and prior to that as well. So this piece is called Remember the Night. So sorry. All the things. Let me put this on silent. Remember the night. Remember the night the police informed us someone in the neighborhood didn't want us here. Our mailbox blown up for the 3rd time. Pieces of metal box falling across the ground like sharp snowflakes. The year 1979, the year it was common to blow up mailboxes of people you want out of your neighborhood. Remember the night the police informed us someone in the neighborhood did not want us here. The year 1996, the year our car windows were broken multiple times in a week, crushed glass under streetlights crunching as they said, "You're not wanted here." So where are we wanted? Where is that place? I want to be there. Everybody get this book. There's so many incredible pieces in here, and I feel very honored to be a part of it. Thank you again, Kazim. Since we have some more time, I'm going to share a couple new pieces. And this one was recently published in the Asian American Writers Workshops in the Margins as a part of the September 11th anniversary. It's titled Keep Moving. When the sky is falling, you must learn to generate a force field. Move away quickly. Keep moving. Silver gray hijab smells of nausea, ash, heartache, collapse. Scent of all the days before, all the days after. An evacuating stranger offers a plum as the days move. Nothing is okay. This next piece was recently published by a UK-based press called Platypus Press in their journal called Wildness Journal, and it is titled Winter. She's gone again, ate the pomegranate seeds, and now it's just you. What else to do but howl a cold wind with her name on it? Drop winter on everyone, all the trees bare, air's frozen tendrils creeping into lungs and bones. Will it ever stop? Counting every barren day, ruby seed by seed, wandering the earth, torch in hand, ultraviolet flames in eyes. Is anyone listening? How can anything possibly grow when she is gone? This next piece, these are like new pieces. They're not in City of Pearls. They're actually, I'm gonna be in, I'm working on my second manuscript. So they're gonna be in that. And this next piece is buying my son a phone at the Best Buy. I'm just pulling it up, so give me one moment. Today I'm having massive technical difficulties. And I'm wishing that someone could jump in and just chat with me while I'm trying to find this, but I found it, so we're good. Buying my teenage son a new phone at the Best Buy. I wanted to tell the guy at Best Buy to take his time, help everyone before me, just have some delay that would give me a few more minutes for my eyes to soak in this adolescent gazelle sitting next to me with the graceful hands of a young man I used to know. Those same hands were tiny once and punched inside my body like a patter of butterfly wings within my womb. I'd sing them a song. The floodlights of a suburban store are falling over us, and I feel exposed. I hope the guy at the Best Buy can't hear the song I'm singing under my breath. It's not for him. Would you like a protection plan for loss or theft? I never get those, but this time I said yes. Okay. This one is called Never Flinch. My cousin got a bloody nose, passed out witnessing a few drops of his own life trickle from his nostril. I laughed a little, imagining what it would be like if I passed out every month as I witnessed my own life warmly flow from me every time I'd begin anew. Thanks, y'all. Much love to everybody.
Thank you so much. I love those new poems. I was taking some notes on pomegranates, which are, my dad has a pomegranate tree. And I've been thinking about that line that you had about pomegranates being ruby. Our last reader for the evening is Ramy El-Etreby, who is a queer Muslim Arab American theater artist, writer, performer, storyteller, and educator based in Los Angeles. His solo theater show, The Ride, played an acclaimed run at the Hollywood Fringe Festival in 2019, which earned him the Encore Producers Award. His writing appears online on Pop Sugar, Medium, The Huffington Post, Creedy, KCT, Love Inshallah, as well as in print in the 2014 anthology Salam Love, American Muslim Men on Love, Sex, and Intimacy, and the 2019 anthology Graffiti, published by Aunt Loot Books. Ramy works in arts education and has held teaching artist positions with the LA Theater Company's Geffen Playhouse and Center Theater Group. Ramy holds an MA in Applied Theater from CUNY School of Professional Studies and is a VONA alum. Please welcome Ramy.
Thank you, Taz. Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? I just want to make sure. All right, cool. Because my Wi-Fi is down, so I'm on my phone, and for lots of reasons, rather than share an excerpt of my piece today, I'm going to just talk a little bit about what inspired me to write it, and also just what this means to me at this point in my life as a Muslim writer. I will say that the piece in the book is a piece of drama. It's a short dramatic fiction. I was invited to submit drama from Kazim when I ran into Kazim at a conference a few years ago. And to be able to be seen in that moment as a theater artist by Kazim, and who encouraged me to write in sort of my medium, and to be a part of this book with that sort of theatrical voice, that meant a lot to me. So I pushed myself to write a new piece, a short piece, set in a family home of a Arab, Egyptian American, family, Muslim American family, and them having, different points of view politically, and what being a good American even means. And, it was something I had been thinking about a lot at that time. This was like around the election of Trump, where, I think something had happened where during the Democratic National Convention, Hillary Clinton's camp brought in these Muslim Americans, these older Pakistani couple, the Khans, the fact that they lost their child, who fought in Afghanistan. And they were sort of using the fact that their child sacrificed his life by fighting for the US military as some sort of a good example of them, as some sort of example of them being good Americans, and, better Americans than Trump, for example, and how that kind of really left a very sour taste in my mouth. And it was like, who are we actually serving when we do things like that? So this is where that piece came from. It's been lovely to have it read out loud the last few readings we've done, but I think for purposes of tonight, it's best if you just pick up a copy of the book and read it yourselves. It's 2 scenes. I am very proud of it. I'm glad it exists. I also just wanted to say, because I pushed myself to do something new for this piece, this being a part of this anthology really sort of symbolizes kind of like a new kind of milestone for me in who I am as a writer. Now I'm a published dramatist with this anthology, so now I can actually, I'm free to write more dramatic works, free to write more works for Muslim actors, Muslim background actors, or whatever, free to have more conversations that do impact Muslim American communities. And I can use the fiction of multiple characters to do that. I think a lot of us are writing, dramatic works these days, and inshallah, there's the more the merrier. There are not enough stories about Muslims out there, and we all need to be writing. I also just wanted to shout out to Taz real quick to like let Taz know that how significant Taz has been for me in terms of my ability to write, you know, through like a Muslim lens, through the Poetry a Day in Ramadan group that we've been a part of for years that she started. You know, I do consider myself a poet. That's probably because through Taz's group, I've been writing poetry for years. So there are future manuscripts in me of poetry that I've written while doing that. And, you know, to be able to feel like I've been able to accomplish so much in these community of folks that are like on this call. You know, we're all growing together, we're all evolving together. And I just think this anthology is a beautiful moment for all of us coming together. And, you know, as we are at multiple different places in our careers. So, you know, thank you for that. And thank you, Taz. Thank you, Kazim. Thank you, Bushra. Thank you, Sham-E-Ali, for being a part of this. Thank you for creating community. Thank you for just this community that we're all a part of. Thank you to Chevalier's books. How do we say it? I'm sorry. Chevalier's books for hosting us tonight too.
Can I also just like to piggyback on what you said, Ramy? Like whenever I refer to you as a poet, you would say I'm not a poet, and I would say no, you're a poet. I see your writing. I've been reading your writing for years, and I love that you're calling yourself a poet now.
Thank you. Inshallah, I'll have a manuscript of my own poetry to join you and Kazim and Sham-E-Ali and Bushra and all of you. You know.
Very exciting. We have 10 minutes before we close at 6 o'clock. I have a couple questions, but if anyone does have a question, please drop it on the Q&A down below. I've been looking at the chat. But this question is for everyone. This is kind of like a basic generic question, but how does it feel to be in this anthology of Muslim American writers? And I guess also Kazim's been doing so many of these readings. How does it feel like I feel like this is one of the latter readings that we're doing. How does it feel to have been a part of all of these readings and just meeting people who were in the book and that experience?
It's been amazing. And people all over the country and different kind of combinations and recombinations, because people are, you know, planning all of their own readings and then, I don't know, inviting the people that they know or inviting the people whose work that they love. So it's like all of these different atoms crashing together, right? Like Sham-E-Ali and I have been on 2 or 3 of these, but all with different people. Do you know what I mean? So it's just really cool to see. And although it's North American Muslims, there are people internationally, American Muslims who are living in other places right now. And so there are readings happening in all these different time zones and stuff like that. And there's readings happening as part of prison projects. There's just tons of, different types of things that are happening. So it's really great. And as far as what it feels like to just have this anthology at all, I've talked about this before, so I won't say too much about it, but I will just say there were very few Muslim, although as I said, there were Muslim writers always writing and sharing their work. And there are literary communities in the United States that are not Anglophone literary communities, right? There's a vibrant Urdu language literary communities where people read and share these poetry, but in the Anglophone world and in the mainstream poetry world that maybe we all had been a part of or were trying to be a part of, there really weren't people, There was Agha Shahid Ali early on. It was probably the most well-known and widely published. But other than him, there were very, very few. When I started publishing, he died 20 years ago yesterday. And since that time, there really hasn't been another person. I started publishing in 2005, and Dilruba Ahmed's first book came out a couple years after mine. And then Bushra was publishing, and then Zohra was publishing, and then there was some just few people only, there wasn't a broad range of people. Then there came quite a powerful new generation of younger Muslim writers, younger than me and Bushra, like by 15, 20 years. And they're quite successful actually. So it's, you know, I'm happy about that, but it still seemed to me that there wasn't yet a full democratic kind of opening of like, you know, let's make this, you know, if there's certain writers that are included, but the game is still the same, it's still a game of canonicity or, you know, just selecting some certain people, that's not good enough for me at any rate. I'd want to have this, I want to have a whole crew. I want to walk into a room full of people. And so that's what the anthology is. It's that room, it's that house that I always wanted. I guess that's all I'll say. I could think a lot more.
Bushra, do you want to go?
Oh, you know, that's funny. I turned off the mute and that means I'm supposed no, I just, I love what Kazim said. And yeah, no, I think, like I said, it's the anthology that brought me back out into the world. I'm really excited to be in it. And I've been really enjoying reading it. And you can just open up to any page and just be floored by the writing. So
and you know,
amazing
the greatest
job.
privilege was writers that I'd never known about myself,
Mhm.
and then seeing their work and being just completely blown away, you know, like there's a mother and daughter pair that I didn't plan it. It was coincidental. But the mother, Rabia Ben Haddam, her poems at the end, it's just spectacular, you know? And it's like, you know, a woman she lives in the mountain, the rural, like remote part of New Mexico. Like, how would I ever come in contact with, cross paths with her? You know, never. And then this work is just incredible, you know, so. I'm gonna find it.
Sham and Ramy, do you have anything to add? Okay.
I was going to just share, like, there were Muslim women anthologies from the 90s on that I was in, a few of them, like Shattering the Stereotypes, and then the Shout Out anthology as well. But this is the first I know of just everybody being included. And it's really, when you said 20 years, I feel like we just lost him, you know, like, I can't believe that it's 20 years ago. So, you know, thank you for that reminder, Kazim, of that, you know, sad anniversary. But yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that is important to say, though, what you said. This is not the first anthology of Muslim writing. It's like the fourth or fifth, actually. There were several earlier.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say that I'm in an anthology that came out, I guess, almost 8 years ago, Salam Love, which is the follow-up to Love Inshallah that I know Taz is in. And I think when those two books came out, you know, at least I'll just speak for myself. I didn't know who any of the other writers in my book were. There are 22 of us, and I didn't know anybody else. And so I kind of felt like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of other people to celebrate this with. And then this time around with this anthology, I know a good amount of these people and we're all in this book together. It's quite like beautiful, you know, it's just beautiful. It's like a yearbook, you know, and we get to like sign each other's like yearbook and be like KIT. It's like, this feels like such a party.
I love that. I love that. I didn't know about that, you know, Salam. What did you say it was called?
Salam Love. That's the anthology that's Muslim American men on love, sex, and intimacy.
I have to confess, I feel a little salty about that, because you would think someone would reach out to me and say, hey, we're doing this anthology about love and sex. I mean, considering what I write about too. but you know, whatever.
I mean, you're all over that book, I will say, you know, at least for me, Kazim, because when I submitted that book, I had just read Fasting for Ramadan for the first time.
Oh
So,
yeah.
you know, in many ways, we're all over each other's works. And so you're in that book too. Mine is
Thank you. Good save.
it's true. It's like, you know, it's the probably one of the only queer stories in this like hetero dominated book. So, you know, I definitely brought you and all my other people
That's why you
who
reached
took.
out to me. They were afraid what I might say, say about love and sex. Yeah.
I'll send you my piece. I'll send you my piece. You'll love it.
I mean, I do know that they had a really difficult time finding people. And I think this is because it was, I know that being in the first book, there was so much backlash, especially just people responding to sex in the title of the book. It was just, there was just backlash, and then people were like, I don't want to be associated with that. So I don't know. I think like so much has changed in just this like one decade. Like this book has a lot of sex in it, you know, and like, no one's like, there's like no reporters doing, you know?
Yeah, it's weird though. I mean, you think about like the transgressiveness about writing about sex at all as a Muslim, and it's like the West will either cast us as sexually deviant or sexually repressed. And it's like, well, which one are we? Because you kind of can't be both, you know? It's very, very strange. But I mean, I do feel that, you know, this is personal, very personal, and I've said it before, so it's not news. But I do feel as a Muslim writer that I did actually have like a pretty good access to a platform much earlier on, but that in lots of ways for the mainstream reading community, I was the wrong kind of Muslim.
Yeah.
And for the mainstream kind of Western community, I was the wrong kind of Muslim because I was talking about spiritual practice and I was talking against the war and the Western interventions. So it's like, I was neither that kind of like weird right-wing Muslim like Asma Gul Hassan or Ayan Hirsi Ali, where the West can like promote them and be like, here are Muslims who, you know, don't, you know, who think that we should, you know, go to war or whatever, you know. The Asma Gul Hassan's family were like the Muslims for Bush people, you know what I mean? Although I like her book, the book that she wrote, I do like it, but the politics are weird. And then I wasn't like, and then the other kind of Muslims that were really being promoted were white convert Muslims. Like, they're, you know, he's a good writer too, but Michael Muhammad Knight and G. Willow Wilson, we were all publishing for the first time at the same time, but they were being reviewed in the New York Times and being published by like Random House and Pantheon, and I couldn't get any of that attention, you know? So I had this conversation probably 3 or 4 years ago with Kaveh Akbar, and he said, you know, thank you so much for paving this path for us as Muslim writers. And I said, I don't think I did anything for you. I didn't have the resources. Nobody gave me the resources to do anything for you. You know, I wish I could have done more. And it was this anthology was my chance. Then when Red Hat approached me after Trump was elected, they approached me and were like, we want to do a Muslim anthology. And this is what we envision. And we're going to put the resources towards it. And we're going to promote the hell out of it. And I thought, okay, this is my chance. I didn't have it before. I didn't have the platform that I could have done more earlier. So I'm just grateful to be able to have done this. So grateful.
It was, I mean, that's very humble of you, but you definitely paved a lot of paths for us. I think the thing that I'm thinking about is like, there is like that mainstream audience and big money attached to all of Mike Knight's books, but then there's also like our like alternative DIY culture. And I feel like that's where you made your mark, and you were the one that like everyone referred to.
I appreciate you so much. And it was like such a heartwarming thing for me when we were in Arizona and you guys did the panel on the Ramadan writing group. And then you talked about in the group, you know, how in the, not afterwards, but at the beginning, how the idea came from the writing that I did in Fasting for Ramadan. That was really special for me because I felt like I threw that book out like a stone and it just like hit the surface of the lake and sank to the bottom.
No way, that book gets brought back up every year. It's like Mariah Carey's Christmas song. It is like the holiday book, you know, like
That's so true.
I love that so much. I think
timeless.
there'll be a new edition of that book that includes an anthology in the second half with all writing by people about Ramadan.
I'm here to work on that book pitch with you, Cousin, if you want to do that.
Found your co-editor.
The second half, the anthology of the second half.
I mean,
be
I'm serious. I
amazing.
won't, I
Sounds
won't give up.
exciting.
That would be
I also have to say
amazing.
one more thing about the anthology is I always thought it to be like not a period, but a colon, like the beginning of something. And so the next time there's an anthology of Muslim writing, it's got to be like a whole team of editors. It shouldn't just be me.
Well, it is 6:04 and we are going a little over time. We want to respect everyone's time. Maybe just like really quick, like where can people find you? What do you have coming out that people can pick up?
I'm at KazimAli.com or Kazim Ali Poet on Twitter and Instagram. My new book is a choose your own adventure YA fantasy novel, Indo-centric and queer friendly. One of the main characters is Muslim. His name is Saeed. That's my family name. My name is Kazim Saeed. Kazim Ali is my middle name, but like that's my writing name. So I hope you pick it up. Good holiday gift.
I mean, it's far away, but it's gonna be soon. My new book, Roses in the Mouth of a Lion, is coming out. And for those of you who read Corona, it's the sequel to Corona. So it's the same character, a Muslim Pakistani girl growing up in Queens, but as a teenager, a queer teenager in high school. It's basically everything that comes in like before she runs away from home. So it's like the build up to like her leaving home. And I'm excited about it. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I could say my hashtag is writer Bushra, but the truth is I barely am on social media, but you could try me. It might take me a while to get there. Yeah.
I just started following you today, writer Bushra, just so you know.
Okay.
And I can be found on Instagram and Twitter at Drama Rams. That's DRAMARAMS. It's my AIM screen name from the 90s. Still going strong.
Sham, what do you got going on?
So you can find me at Sham-E-Ali.com, Sham-E-Ali Nayeem on Instagram with underscores in between. And I just want to say, Taz, I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you for bringing us all together for this reading. I really, really enjoyed it. It was so nice to be with everybody. And I just appreciate your constant presence and your leadership, your beautiful writing, your beautiful artistry, your beautiful visual art. You are such a blessing. And it's just great to see your face and hear your voice as well. And,
thank you.
And on Twitter, you can find me as Solar Shami with an I.
Thank you all for doing this. For me, you can find me at Tazzy Star. I have a poetry book that came out last winter during the pandemic called The Day the Moon Split in Two. And I have Muslim Valentine's Day cards, which I need to be working on, but they will be ready for Valentine's Day this year. So keep an eye out on my Etsy shop. You can get prints of my painting on my Etsy shop as well. So they're all there. Thank you, everyone. And of course, get the book. Thank you, Chevalier.
Thank you,
Diane, so much for hosting us. This was great.
Thank you, Chevalier Books. Thank you, Stan. Thanks, Taz, Kazim,
Thank you.
Ramy, Sadia.
Yes,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
I'll send the recording to all y'all's email tomorrow.
Okay.
Too.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you
Have a
so
good
much.
night.
Bye.
See you